Welcome back to r/revenge stories, where you will hear a crazy story about a cheating husband who has the audacity to hire a private investigator to check on his wife, even though she is actually an angel. Without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, "Don't Open My Mail When I Am 4,000 Miles Away." So last year I moved to the States from Scotland to study at UGA. Around Christmas, just before the UK general election, my mom rings me and lets me know that my dad filled in an SNP, which is Scottish National Party questionnaire that was addressed to me. I signed up for their campaign leaflets a few years ago and could not change the mailing address to my US one, but filled it with his opinions and sent it back. For context, we disagree on almost everything political and he hates the SNP. In return, I sign him up as an SNP member. This means he will receive texts, calls, emails, letters and invitations to volunteer for their campaign. I got him a year's membership that he cannot unsubscribe from without the password to his account. The password I made. And guys, I gotta say, this is sort of a genius petty revenge, and I'm curious, does your political opinion differ from the one that your parents have? I often heard that the way you were brought up basically shapes you in every way, including your political opinion. So, as an example, if your parents were extremely conservative or extremely liberal, you were probably as well. Let me know how it is or how it was for you in the comments. And I forgot to mention, this one as well as the first one were from r/pettyrevenge, and this one is titled, "Don't Bully Me If You Leave Your Car Unlocked." This story takes place in 10th grade and there was this complete Chad in my class. He loved mocking me during class and my teachers did nothing. One time in math class, he sprayed a ton of cologne in my face, knowing full well I am extremely allergic. One day, after telling everyone I was a dark math addict, he started bragging about how he did not study for his driver's exam and that he was excited to crash his daddy's car. It was a convertible that his dad gave him for his 16th birthday. So, class ended and he and his gaggle of friends took off to go vape behind the pizza place just off campus. My friend asked me to go get lunch with her, so we went to McDonald's and grabbed some food. On the way back, I noticed Chad's car parked pretty terribly by the school. My friend pointed out that the top was open and I immediately knew what I had to do. Some backstory, I lived in Atlantic Canada at the time and there were always a bunch of seagulls hanging around. Anyways, I grabbed a handful of fries of my friend, you know where this is going, and threw them into his car. Immediately, a swarm of seagulls flocked into his car. My friend and I started laughing really loudly, which caught the attention of Chad. He screamed and we took off. Long story short, he does not leave the top of his convertible open anymore and I was very satisfied. And guys, for some reason this story brings me to the topic of douchebag car drivers or motorcycle drivers. Because, as you might know, currently I am still in Thailand with my girlfriend and we are living at her parents' place. And I gotta say, it is absolutely astonishing the amount of crappy motorcycle and car drivers you encounter on a daily basis. Nowhere else in Thailand I've ever seen so many people drive on the wrong side of the road, as well as park wherever they want. Let us know in the comments about your recent experiences with crappy drivers. And the next one is from r/regular revenge and is titled, "My manager is physically and emotionally abusive, so I get her undercover bossed and fired." One summer I was working as a server at a well-known pizza restaurant. It was in a small tourist town, so it was amazing money, and as a university student that was all that mattered to me. This job was so horrible that I would go home wanting to quit, count my tips and decide I could put up with it for one more day. The reason it was so horrible was because of the manager, Tracy. Tracy was hot-headed, irrational, a liar, a manipulator and overall a terrible human being. I watched her terrorize the other servers and kind of kept my head down to avoid it. Examples of her being awful, she once screamed at me because the entire restaurant did not have cutlery on the tables, because the restaurant physically did not have enough and she was too cheap to order more. I was in the middle of filling drinks for a table when she made me stop and go into the kitchen to run the dishwasher. She then yelled at me because that table did not have full drinks. This all happened in front of a guest who ended up saying something to Tracy about her behavior. After Tracy left, the guest assured me that she was going to be reporting her once another server was running her food. Tracy physically grabbed the server by the arm and pulled her back into the kitchen because that server did not run the ticket before hers. They got into a screaming match and the cops were called. The server sent me photos of her bruised arm the next day. Tracy played the cops like a fiddle and was like, "That never happened," and batted her eyelashes. I'm not sure how she got away with that. My sister was the hostess and was only making $12 a week in tip out. The other servers and I did the math and my sister would have been taking home $40 a night. Ironically, Tracy had a new boat and a new truck. My sister messed up, I don't remember how, and Tracy took me into the back of the restaurant to scream at me. We were out there for a full 15 minutes before the supervisor told her they needed me back. This supervisor was an angel and she comes back into the story a bit. This was a while ago and I'm sure I will think of more, but for now I will continue with the story. Tracy's reputation in the town was awful, the locals would not eat there because of her. In a small community, everyone had a story about her. I would get sympathy when people found out where I worked. So that just tells you how bad it was. Supervisors told the franchisees about how bad the working conditions were, but every time they would investigate, she would turn into a completely different person. She was kind and helpful, and working for that side of her was not so bad. But when they were not there, the working conditions were awful again. It seemed like they would never catch her in her natural element. The revenge part of my story began on my last day of work. We had a health inspection and failed, so I knew Tracy would be particularly awful that day. I looked at the angel of a supervisor and told her that if Tracy screamed at me, then I was walking out. The supervisor said she would not blame me and did not know why I had put up with it for so long. So anyways, Tracy gets in and of course she starts yelling at me until I start crying. I finished my last table and walked out, taking my sister with me. Down 2 staff members, the restaurant was in trouble. We drove by it 30 minutes later and there was a line up out the door because there was no hostess seating people. Tracy had to seat people and serve my section. When I got home, I messaged all the staff that had quit over the summer. I told them that I was whistleblowing and that they should too. The girl that was physically assaulted ended up writing a letter and sending photos of her bruised arm. My letter ended up being 2 pages long, single-spaced, and included everything I have mentioned, with emphasis on her having 2 different personalities when the franchises were there. A few months later, my sister got a message from the dishwasher saying that Tracy got fired and the angel supervisor took her position. Because of that, I decided to go back the following summer. I was hired immediately. While working there, I discovered the results of my actions. The restaurant was rated the lowest in the country under Tracy's management. This, coupled with the whistleblowers and the civilian complaints, resulted in serious investigation. I don't remember how high up in the company he was, but a higher up ended up going to the restaurant under the intent that he was a new supervisor coming to help because she was short-staffed. He observed her behavior for 2 weeks. After the 2 weeks he told her, "Here's the step-by-step plan of how we are going to fix the restaurant." Her response was, "Who the F do you think you are?" I guess when he told her, the expression on her face was priceless. I wish I saw it. Anyways, she obviously got fired and is now working at a fast food pizza place in the same town. The place is always empty because the locals still actively boycott her. I know it was long, but thanks for sticking with me. And guys, I'm curious, did you ever have to deal with an abusive boss? And if so, how long did you manage to stay at that workplace? In addition, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me in these difficult times. Thank you so much in advance. And the last one is from r/ProRevenge and is titled "Scum of a man hires my unit to do a job after refused to pay us, so I help ruin him." To be clear, my original post was written in Spanish via Google Translate. I copy and paste the end result. This is a bit long because I have to give context to everything, please bear with the explanation. A few things. First, I am a security officer with a private investigator certification, which allows me to take PI, private investigative cases, as long as it does not interfere with local police investigations. And any crimes that I witness must be reported to the police as soon as possible so they can make an arrest. PI cases come from a few sources. We are sometimes contracted by local police to do what is referred to as spotter work, where we are brought on active wide area investigations to do recon work and look but not interact with anything that might be involved with the case. Basically, we are just an extra pair of eyes. Or the local police will mix us in a surveillance operation and we would follow low-profile individuals and report their day-to-day activities. These are completely confidential. Then there is client contracts. This is where corporate clients contract our company's personal investigations unit to investigate their employees' day-to-day activities while on the job to see if there is some hint that an employee is committing a crime and to report if there's reasonable proof that an employee is breaking the law on company time. The job is to gather evidence to prove guilt or innocence. These are not confidential, but we usually sign a non-disclosure agreement. Finally, there is personal contracts. When a person wants to hire a personal investigator to do a job, it is usually something along the lines of a husband or a wife that suspect that the spouse is cheating on them and wants some kind of proof. Or someone is looking for a relative or lost family and is trying to reconnect with them. There is no disclosure agreement and it is up to the client to draw up a disclosure agreement. Most don't, but we keep quiet as professional courtesy. Okay, now that the job description is done, let me tell you what happened. About 3 years ago, I had been hired to do a personal contract. The client, a rich sleazy snob, was apparently stupidly rich. He hired my unit. When I say my unit, I mean the unit I work with, a 5-man team. He believed his wife was cheating on him with other people and he wanted proof of this so he could start his divorce process with solid evidence. He contracted us in a 6-month contract and was to pay the company XXX amount of dollars upon completion. So we set up surveillance cameras all over his large house and in the woman's car with the client's permission. We had at least one of the team tailing her at all times. Good times. Day in and out, we watched their lives, and in this line of work, you either get detached or emotionally invested, like watching a soap opera. As we watched them, we quickly saw this lady was a frickin' saint. She volunteered at a soup kitchen and a children's hospital. She helped with local churches' canned food drives. Those kind of things, she was the perfect definition of what a good human should be. On the other hand, their husband was a total bastard. He was the one we caught many times, bringing women to his house. Sometimes he would bring 2 or 3 girls in one day, and that was only what was recorded in the house. We arrive at the 4-month mark, which is basically where we show all the evidence and give the report so far. We show him everything that we found and have a 6-hour debrief with video and audio support showing that she had not done any wrongdoing other than a speeding ticket and a few double park situations. After we concluded the debrief, he looked stupefied. He says, "So you did not catch her cheating? Then what was the point of me hiring you?" My boss, our captain, turns to him with a serious stare, which is perhaps in the most serious and badass looking face I have ever seen in that man, and said, "You hired us to investigate your wife. You are unhappy that your wife is an honest and faithful woman?" The snob is visibly annoyed. He stands up and is getting his jacket when my captain says, "Look, there's still 2 months on the contract. We will keep tailing her and we will meet again after our contract is up and give you any updates." The snob turns to him and says, "Don't bother, this is over, I'm ending it. Come when she's not home and get your equipment out." So a week later we did exactly that. Now, food for thought, when contracts like this are made, a small portion is paid upfront as commission fee and the rest is paid at the end of the contract's allotted time. In his case, it is 6 months. Now, pay works like this. The commission is divided up between each PI as a bonus to our salary. And then the salary is what we get from the company to get us through to the completion of the contract. The remaining balance after being paid by the clients is then divided into a cut for completion for the PIs and a cut for the office. Good money when done right. So fast forward to the next payday after the contract is officially over. My unit gets a call from our office to come in on the next payday as there is an emergency meeting regarding us and the last contact. We get there and find out that Snob pulled the funding and refused to pay us for the work. So we are getting paid, just not with the completion bonus. We all left super pissed. We went to lunch and brainstormed how to get even with this guy. Then we remembered all the house footage of his dirty deeds. At first we wanted to blackmail him, but that is low and we are better than that. I remembered the wife, so I reached out to her. I set a date to sit down and explain everything to her. I showed her the videos. She cried for a good half hour. I think I broke her whole world. It was gut-wrenching. I then advised her to get a lawyer and proceeded to give her all the collected evidence and my business card. So, the aftermath, fast forward about 6 months, I am called into court as my company is suing him from fraud, breach of contract and unpaid dues. My company wins the case easily as his lawyer's argument was that we failed to deliver the result he wanted. However, we were not hired to deliver a product, we were hired to observe and report. We got paid in the end. I was contacted by the wife who thanked me for all the evidence. She got a divorce because of all the evidence I gave her. She got almost everything. His huge house, both cars and a huge cash sum. Moral of this story, don't try to screw over people who specialize in gathering evidence and reconnaissance. Edit update as of June 17th, 2019. A lot of PMs and a few comments asked about the wife. I promised I would look into it and I did. I got in touch with her and we agreed to meet with her yesterday. She was delighted to hear from me. We met up at a local coffee shop. I got to meet her new husband. And she has had 2 kids, both girls and are cuties and they are well behaved with him and she's pregnant with the 3rd, confirmed it's a boy. She has been remarried for almost 2 years now. After a few coffees and idle chat, she told me about her own petty revenge story. Now keep in mind, this is what she told me, so take it with a grain of salt. She told me of how the family of Super Snob demanded that they get the house back as it is their family's ancestral home and offered to buy the house from her almost immediately after the divorce hearing. She had a realtor come and evaluate the house. The family wanted to give her $250,000. But the realtor concluded that the house value was near 1.5 million. The family kept demanding she sell over the following months. She told the family about the realtor and his appraisal documents of the house being $5 million. So she would be putting them on the market up for sale for that price, but would sell to them first because they were like family for a discount of 3.5 million. They bought the house with cash next day in hand. This ended the pleasant evening with them. As I am leaving, the wife smiles at me and grabs the sleeve of my arm. She says, "Wait, I never got to say this and I want to tell you. Thank you, you are a blessing that rescued me." She then reached in her purse and got her wallet. I think she's going to give me more money or something. However, I raised my hand to stop her. She smiles and pulls out my old business card and says, "I tried to call you and your company a year ago to thank you, but the number on the card was disconnected. I wanted to know if you could update your contact information for me." I ask her why. She continues smiling, "Because you are the kind of person I like. You were looking out for me when I needed it and I want to keep you in my back pocket just in case." I updated my contact information for her and was invited with my family to their home for dinner on Friday. The icing on the cake of yesterday is this morning. Amazingly, I just got a call from my boss. Very excitedly, he told me that I have a new client who offered a 5-year employment contract. Apparently, wife's new husband is a magistrator. And that guy got his boss to approve a contract for the company, with the provision that I oversee as the new captain. This means that the unit that I will be running will be taking our job assignments directly from the court. So thanks to everyone who asked me to check up on her. I went to meet for coffee and a chat, and I gained a high profile and paying client. And with that, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed today's content, and if you did, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel to join our amazing community. Furthermore, don't forget to go to r/ripestories on Reddit to post your own stories if you want me to read them out in a video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow.